Today I was kind of unsure of what to speak of, so since the options were not plenty, so to say, the person who I decided to speak about today is Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria this past weekend improved to 17-0 over a dominant performance against Charles "Du Bronx" Oliveira. He finished him in the first round with a brutal backhand followed by a left cross. Completely flattened Charles out. Now, why did I want to speak about Topuria? I'm not here to speak about what another man has done. I'm here to speak about what we can learn from it. This mofo, Ilia Topuria, 24 hours prior to the fight against Charles, was in a restaurant. What was Ilia doing in a restaurant? Yes, he was indeed having dinner. I know, shocking. But what else was he there doing with all of his team and his family? The motherfucker was celebrating the victory. Like he'd already won. And this is something that Ilia said after the fight that I think ties back to this very well. He said, and I quote, "Belts are earned in training. In the fight, you just come to collect them." It feels like Ilia did what I've spoken about here before, making sure that there is no way he can lose. That's what I'm basically about. I'm about doing everything I can daily to make sure I don't lose, to leave no other option besides winning, to the point that when I win, I don't want it to be, oh my god, I won. I want it to be, of course I fucking won. And I'm not sure, but it does come across that Ilia is that exact same way. I believe that when Ilia beat Volk, Max, and now Charles, he wasn't so, oh my fucking god, I won, Jesus, oh my god. It was like, the fuck, of course I won. All this training, all this work I put in, of course I won. And it is amazing. I believe that he is I know he is currently the most followed UFC champion of the current roster. So of the current UFC champions, Ilia is the most followed on Instagram. The last I checked, he had 10.8 million and Islam Makhachev has 10.5. And I just checked. I thought that maybe Israel Adesanya would have more followers than him. But no, Israel Adesanya has 9 million. So I believe, I don't think I'm forgetting anyone, that Ilia Topuria is currently the most followed active UFC fighter. And he kind of predicted that all of this would happen. You're seeing the way the man moves. There's something about him. What people often refer to as aura. What the fuck does aura mean? Well, I'm not sure. But I do have a theory about aura. I think that aura is how much real estate, basically the amount of aura you have. This is just as far as I know my thesis on what aura is. I believe that there's a direct correlation between how much aura you have and how much real estate you take up in people's minds. What do I mean by this? If you're a guy no one thinks about, no one cares, no one hits up, very much like me, you have no aura. Zero aura. You're taking no space in anyone's mind. No one's thinking about you constantly. But maybe let's give a stereotypical example of the Chad. We all know a guy who's the stereotypical Chad. Maybe we knew him in high school. We knew the guy in high school. Maybe there's a guy from your work. a few people think about Chad, so Chad has a bit more of an aura. Now let's go to the next level. The rich guy with the Lamborghini, the wannabe influencer. Well, a lot of people see him daily, a lot of people think about him. You see him at the gas station with his Lambo, you think, man, how did that young guy have a Lambo? He has even more aura than Chad. Now you look at Ilia El Matador Topuria. Well, very handsome guy, beautiful family, very rich, very successful, handsome guy with a nice physique, UFC champion, two-time UFC sorry, not two-time, two-division UFC champion, talks all this shit, has a bunch of followers on Instagram. A lot of people gotta be thinking about Ilia Topuria constantly. I mean, I'm thinking about this man right now. He's just fresh off his win. So I bet a lot of people are thinking of him right the fuck now as I'm recording this audio. That's why I believe that Ilia has such an aura to him, because of the mental real estate he takes up in people's minds. Obviously, I may be totally wrong. This is just my thesis. But you know what? Give me your feedback on the thesis in the comment section. I think it's an interesting one, because that is something that I tend to observe, that the more people give a shit about someone, the more of an aura they have for some reason. Either they care about them for any reason, because they're rich, because they're pretty, because they're handsome, because they're jacked, whatever the reason is, because they appear a certain way. It is an interesting concept that I think it's a theory that does have some legs on it. But yeah, back to Ilia Topuria, absolutely amazing. From the way he carries himself, from the confidence, the proverbial cojones to celebrate the win 24 hours before, post it online, go out there, knock the man out, brawl with everyone. Yeah, I'll fight Patty, I'll fight this guy, I'll fight that guy, I'll fight anyone. Completely knocking out 3 legends back to back, and just seeming so effortless, so like it was meant to be in a way. Like, yeah, of course it was meant to be, you know, I put in all this training, there was really no other option. Either someone murdered me, broke my legs, or I was going to become UFC champion. There was no way I could possibly lose, because I just did way too much. It just, the equation did not work. Losing was not an option, because I didn't make it an option with the things that I did. So it's just amazing. Kind of a different video, but yeah, I think I did good.